Hi team, this is Ashutosh from Informatica GCS team. Today we will be discussing about how to use SQL transformation with Databricks Delta connector in IDMC. So the agenda for today is why is the SQL transformation actually needed, the prerequisites and the steps to set up, and how to pass the dynamic SQL query in the SQL transformation, and we will be proceeding with the demo part. Okay, so why is the SQL transformation needed? As we all know, SQL transformation is used to process SQL queries which is in midstream in a pipeline or the mapping. You can configure the SQL transformation to process the saved query as well, or you can enter the query directly in a SQL editor, which I will be proceeding in the demo part. So the SQL transformation also processes the query and it returns the rows or the database error which it gets. So we will be checking that onto the later part. So what are the prerequisites and steps to set up while using the Databricks connector for the SQL transformation? So you cannot configure more than one SQL query in a SQL transformation. This is with regards to a single SQL transformation. So when you select a particular query, you have to specifically manually define the order or the manually determine the column names, okay, in the output ports of the functions or in the SQL transformation. So it processes the query and this returns the rows. So when it returns the rows, you need to define the output fields which you want it to store the rows, okay. And this is an important part. When the SQL error occurs, the error is logged into the SQL error field. This is by default. So yeah, some rules and guidelines are there to follow when using the Databricks connector for SQL transformation. So you cannot configure a stored procedure in the SQL transformation. A fully parameterized query cannot be configured in the SQL transformation. However, we have an option to pass a dynamic SQL query, which we will be focusing on to the later part of the slides. The SQL transformation should have the select SQL query. This is important because I have seen where use cases like we are passing the insert, update and delete queries. So make sure when you are passing the other types of queries, there is no need to fetch the result sets. So you can simply use the pre and post SQL options which are available at the source and target within the CDI mapping. So yeah, now let's proceed with the dynamic SQL query, how to pass it in the SQL transformation. Yeah. So this is the CDI mapping which I have created from Databricks to Databricks. In midway there is a SQL transformation. So what I'm doing here, I have created a table here which is a SQL master, and there is one field which is of type string and queries. So one use case which I am demonstrating here. So if we fetch the data from this table, see I have put it a query which corresponds to a different catalog and different schema and the different table. I've inculcated whatever I could in a particular query so that I can show that this query works via SQL transformation in Databricks. So we have this query. Now what I want is this query to be this field which contains this query to be passed to the SQL transformation in the incoming fields, if you see. And up here, how we will process this query, we will select the query type as entered query, the Databricks connection and the SQL type is the SQL query, and this query is coming. We will add these tilde symbols before and after, just validate it. This is fine, and we are good to go. Okay, at the target I have just selected a Databricks table to validate the results what it will be doing. Okay, so I'm just saving it now. Yeah, running the mapping. Yeah, instead here let's monitor from the Databricks query history. Yeah, so as we can see, the insert into query which has written into final target is successful. Let's validate if the mapping is successful as well. Yeah, the mapping is successful. Now let's validate the data into this target table. Yeah, so as you can see, the column with the particular condition and it has processed the SQL query with the particular condition and we are able to fetch the data here. So yeah, That's all for today, team. We have the references to explore more about the SQL transformation, the Databricks docs, and from the Informatica docs. We would love to hear from your team at supportvideos@informatica.com or https://x handle in .infosupport. Thank you and have a great day ahead.